It's me. In my last video, I listed a few of Ableton's features that I either compared to Reason or just flat out wish Reason had. Today, I'm going to do the opposite. There are a few features in Reason that I really like that I would love to see over in Ableton, which is the other main DAW that I use, by the way. If you are a beginner to Reason, this video will be good for you to learn some super handy features that I use all the time in Reason. And also, if you're more seasoned in Reason, I don't know about you, but I forget sometimes all the different ways there are to get things done. So I think this will be good for you as well. So sit back, enjoy. Thanks for watching. Real quick, if you could just scroll down a little bit and hit that like button, that is the easiest way to help a brother out on this channel. It helps people see more of my content. It's free, it takes you 1 second, just do it. If you've been here a couple of times though, go ahead and hit the subscribe button if you found this place helpful. We'd love to have you on board. You can also support this channel for as low as $5 on Patreon. That would really help me out. You get extra videos that I make, extended versions, alternate extended versions of videos that I make here on YouTube. For instance, when I made the Maelstrom video, boop, boop, I also made a 2-hour companion piece. That's what I'm calling them, companion pieces of me making synth sounds for the Maelstrom. So if you want more content, extra content, more in-depth content, Patreon. Thank you. First up is the channel strip here in Reason. I really like that every time you make a mix channel or an audio channel, it makes a channel strip for it with, dynamics, EQ, and the EQ is the SSL way. It's not like, these modern EQs where you can get really surgical with it. I rarely ever need to do that. So I kind of like shaping the sound in this way. And also I like that you don't have to be staring at the analyzer, although you can. I like to try to do it with the knobs and my ears. So it's quick because EQ is probably the #1 thing you use to process sounds. And also it can force you to just use your ears, which I like to do it that way. So yeah, love this thing. And yeah, the high pass and low pass filters are just right there, ready to go. Yeah, I really like mixing in this way. Next up is the tool window. I really like the way the tool window works here in Reason. I just like that you pull it up by pressing F8 and then, you can get your quantize on, you can change, transpose things, you can randomize notes. I never do that though. You can randomize velocity a little bit, or scale it. Legato adjustments, just everything's here. Scale tempo, if you want, loop to play halftime or double time. Yeah, and then you can also tweak the grooves from here as well. I like the way this one works a lot, and it's quick and handy for sure. Tool window, F8. Next up, I also really like the players here in Reason. The way they handled the scales and chords, and also they keep adding them: chord sequencer, drum sequencer, polystep sequencer, quad note generator. I mean, I just really like the way they beat map. I like the way they handled this in Reason, the way they work, and how easy it is to, move that data onto the sequencer and all that. It's not quite as fun to use in just the Reason rack, or quite as straightforward. You still can though. But yeah, otherwise, I think they beat Ableton hands down, because Ableton has that little chord generator, here, I'll just show it to you. It's not great. Hold on. So here in Ableton, you can use their chord generator, and then you set the intervals, or you can use one of their presets. Couldn't think of the word, right? But then in order to keep everything in key, you gotta add a scale, like a scale module, and then you got to set it's not that intuitive, one, and also there's not enough visual feedback to make it as good as the Reason stuff. Yeah, and it's basic. I mean, it works, but it's basic, and yeah, it's not as easy as pulling up chord generator, for instance, or is that what it's called? Chord sequencer, and just kind of using your ears to grab these really cool chords, or just a straightforward approach that is scales and chords. just, pick your key, pick how many notes. It's visual. It's just great. So yeah, even the simple one. I don't know why that little glitch happens where it jumps somewhere. Where are you? There. Yeah, that's just better than this. The other thing I like about Reason is that its built-in synths look like synths. On one hand, it's kind of nice that in Ableton they have this real economy of space thing going on. They really don't want anything to take up too much space, so it's easy to stay on this one page. But it makes it a little, you got to relearn every synth because you're like wondering where they put certain things. Now they've gotten kind of better at it, and it's like for instance, Wavetable is one of the newer synths, and it makes a little bit more sense. But using, say, Analog, they're one of the earlier synths, which sounds great, by the way. It's just like, what am I looking at? I did eventually learn how to use these, but I had to learn. And in this case, it really helps that you know how a synth works to even know what you're looking for, because it's really easy to miss stuff. But on the flip side, you take something like Europa, or even, if you're just learning synthesis, like say Subtractor, and it just looks like a synth, and it's laid out in a way like there's, boxes that kind of give you an idea of what's connected to what. And yeah, this is just the way. I mean, of course, your VST synths in either program are going to look like synths, but yeah, the built-in ones, and using the built-in ones are handy because they're going to always work. You don't have that problem of, oh, your license changed or whatever. They updated it, now it won't open down the line. And I would say actually, and also not just the synths that look like synths, but also the variety of synths in Reason smashes Ableton. So yeah, the synth game is on fleek. I couldn't even get it out. Yeah. Next up is regarding editing MIDI notes. I really like the options that you have in Reason over Ableton. Ableton kind of dumbs it down a little bit, and I'll show you in a second what I mean. But here in Reason, if you want to split a note, you can split a note with the razor tool. I love that. If you want to nudge a note, you can nudge a note using the tool window. You see how it's just moving just a little bit? Let me zoom in. It's just moving just a little bit, and you can really fine tune your swing, if you will, or humanize things pretty quickly. You can move like all of these with this, or you can, there's kind of more options. You can equalize their velocity really quick, just match all the values and then bring them up. That's actually not that hard to do in Ableton either, but it's actually a lot to do with this razor tool, being able to split a note and make it into two, versus in Ableton, if I wanted to split this, I have to grab the pen tool, I think is the best way, and do that, but then that just cuts it, and then go back to here and duplicate it. I think that's the fastest way. Yeah, being able to just split that right there would be great, and there's no way to do it that quickly. I do obviously like the fold feature, so that you can get everything out of the way. That's amazing. And the scale feature is pretty dope too, but just when it comes down to like, I want to start moving stuff around or changing the timing of things. If you want to nudge this, you have to hold Option and press the arrow key, but you also don't know how much are you nudging it. When you're zoomed in, it's less of a nudge. When you're zoomed out, it's more of a nudge. I don't really love that. I also don't like, you see what just happened there? I'm nudging it back to where it was, but it'll jump to like if you have a long note and you start nudging from out here, you'll be able to see it. But now let's say you want to control the end, like see where it's going to end, and you start nudging. Nope, it jumps to the beginning but the beginning is like butted up to the edge of this piano roll. So it's like I can't really see. It needs to be kind of here for me to see the beginning, but it snaps. I don't love it. There's other reasons too, but stuff like that, I just feel like can be a little bit cumbersome, especially the fact that I can't just split that. And then it's like, yeah, see, I pressed the wrong button because I forget which button is the pen. I mean, that's definitely my fault, but ugh. Next up, while I did complain about the fact that you can't hide the automation with like a simple button or something like that in Reason, and yes, you can collapse it, but that's not the same thing to me. I want it gone, but somebody pointed that out, so that was a good point. You can collapse automation, but then it's like you got to collapse it for each one, and yeah, I don't know. And also the way they're not fully attached to their respective channel. And they are, but they aren't, but they are, but they aren't. But the fact that they're region-based is cool, I think. And it makes them easier to work with. You can see the clearly defined border of them when you're working. And then also it's easy to time stretch a piece by holding control and using this handle here. And then I really like the way that they handle this too. So if you see this little line that's moving in the background, this is like the default position. So you can say, this is a filter. You can say it's always open until the automation hits, then it swoops down and swoops up, and then it goes back to always open. And I like that too, because on other programs you have to like think about, here, I'll just show you in Ableton. In Ableton here, you have to think about like where your automation is going to end. So you kind of have to like do one of these, oops. And that's easy to do that too, kind of move it a little bit, do one of these and then do one of these, then do one of these, and then do your automation to get back to its default position. And then it kind of just runs. I mean, it's you just kind of got to do an extra click, or you got to think about it a little bit differently. Of course, you can automate really fast in Ableton. I will say that. So if you do this, that's pretty cool. And then this is kind of a region for a second, right? So you can kind of time stretch it. That's cool. But once you've deselected it, okay, now you got to reselect it to get the same kind of thing. It's cool that they changed it to be like this. But that's, it's not, I like the region thing better. So the best of both worlds would be Reason's way with regions that you can quickly hit a button and hide all the automation. That would be like, mwah. Next up, I really like the Regroove mixer workflow. I really like the way they handled this. It's not the prettiest, but it works. You can set your groove here, and you can set 8 different grooves. You can tweak them a little bit, how hard the groove's grooving. And then you can also just like add some shuffle in a simple way. I also like that you can set the global shuffle here. So if you're running patterns out of Red Drum, for instance, you can set the global shuffle here, or you can set one of your custom grooves to be the global shuffle. I like the way that works. And so yeah, when you want to apply groove to something, you just pick the groove lane, I'm gonna call it, the groove channel. There it is. In this case, it's A1, and you just add that to the lane. So that makes it really easy. It's like all the way across, because in Ableton, sometimes if you add groove later on, then you're adding it kind of to the region, one singular region, and then you got to kind of like select them all, and then, pick the groove. Or I find every once in a while, I'll find a region that just didn't get the groove applied to it because I added the groove late, or maybe I changed something, or I've been in this loop and I have the groove going on the loop, but I didn't do it to the rest of the regions. I mean, yes, that's on me, but it's just easier here to just do it all the way across. And you can see clearly too which lanes have groove. This lane has a groove applied to it. So yeah, I like the way the Regroove mixer works for sure. Next up, even though sometimes I might complain about the fact that there's 3 pages to get things done in Reason, sometimes that can feel a little bit inefficient. I overall love the visual aesthetic of this program, and I think loving the way your DAW looks, it seems like it could help in creativity. I know it's kind of silly, but a lot of people don't like Ableton because it looks like a spreadsheet. It just kind of does. It's not a beautiful program in any way. It's just like a bunch of boxes, but that's kind of why it's efficient. I will say that, but it doesn't inspire the same way looking at the rack can. And yeah, I think that might matter in terms of creativity or just really catching a vibe. No. The next complaint I have about Ableton, and this is again down to their quest for efficiency, I think, is the tiny buttons. Like, even to open a plugin, it's a tiny button, something you do all the time. It's a tiny button. Now, once it's open, you can use a shortcut, Option Control P, to like kind of close it temporarily and do something behind it and then bring it back. That's nice, but if you want to open that, you can't just hover over it and then press Option Control P. No, that doesn't work. You got to click the tiny button, and there are tiny buttons all over the place. Some even smaller than this. I just can't think of which ones, where they are off the top of my head. But yeah, tiny buttons. And sometimes, if you don't know exactly where something is, or you're just using a synth or a plugin, native plugin, for the first time, you're squinting to look for the hidden tiny button for sure. Yeah, that's a little frustrating in Ableton. Next thing I love about Reason, of course, is the rack. It's the rack. As much as I again have complained about, multiple pages to get things done, the rack with its skeuomorphic design, love that word. It's just, it makes you feel more creative. And also, if you're an older person, if you're just from the last kind of generation of music making, you're gonna understand this. You've been actually routing things in this way your whole music career, and it's straightforward. And also, if you're just learning signal flow, I think this is a great way to do it. And the CV routing, which I don't think anybody has that. They definitely have mappable parameters to LFOs or something like that, but just straight up CV, something else's gate is controlling something else, or all the other ways you can use CV. Yeah, I think that's unique to Reason. Don't quote me, but I think it is. And yeah, it makes you feel more creative. It makes you feel like you're doing something. I like the rack. I love the rack. That's why it's great that it's, that it's to go now, that you can bring it to whatever DAW you like. The rack, obviously it's their flagship deal. So yeah. Another thing that I like about Reason and this sequencer, and I touched on this earlier with MIDI, but it's back to this inspector, but using it with regions as well. It's just easy to, move something by a 16th, or move something by a full beat, or move something by bars, or, nudge anywhere and, nudge values in between those. And control its length really quick. You want this to be shorter by a few beats. That's nice. And then quickly do fades. You can grab these two and do a quick fade in. I like to do this and do a quick fade in, or fade out. That's nice. It's just easy to see it all up here. Transpose it really quick. Change its level really quick. I don't want to go to the mixer. I'm just going to drop this by a dB. Just do it. And that's nice. I like this. I like that it's always showing. You don't have to like double click like you do in Ableton to, I want to see this. And this is kind of their inspector, and it works, but you still end up clicking around a lot here and like clicking and dragging things. And yeah, it's fine. It's just nice sometimes we can just, click this, and you can't move the regions. You can only move within the regions with this inspector. So you still gotta zoom in and do one of these to move it, you know. The inspector that's always showing is nice. And the last thing that I really like about Reason and its workflow is this bus processor, this master compressor. It sounds amazing, and it really adds life to your tracks as you're getting towards the mastering stage. Yeah, this thing's a beast. I love this thing. And it's one of the big reasons why I typically do mixdowns here in Reason and not so much in Ableton. I just get a better result, a different result in Reason. It's because of all the things added up though on this SSL. The channel strip and the way I'm just using my ears, and also this master compressor, and not as much the compression here. I do use it, but it's not why I'm here. But yeah, the SSL in general, but yeah, this master compressor. So yeah, thank you for watching this video. I hope you found it entertaining and educational. I'll see you guys on the next one. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe. Thank you very much for that. And check out my Patreon for more content. I'll see you guys next time.